I get started, I want you to meet a little girl. As a child, she is bright, ugly, energetic, creative, and smart. But this light in her dimmed as early as 5 years old, when her best friend and hero was sentenced to a year in jail after being charged with drug possession. This led to her parents' separation, following which resulted in repeat offenses and longer sentences. With dad on probation and without a license, the visitations grew fewer and farther between until she turned 10 and stopped hearing from him altogether. You see, when a daddy's little girl loses her father, everything changes. The years that followed, this bright and bubbly little girl learned cynicism and defeat. She was 14 when she was forced into a 12-week program for drug addiction and self-harm. And was 15 when she tried to take her own life for the first time. This little girl was me. At such a young age, I didn't understand the injustice of the system and concept of mass incarceration for non-violent drug offenses. All I knew was that my dad was taken away from me, and it changed my life forever. With the recent legalization of marijuana in several states, drug policies are changing, and there's a question of whether or not people convicted of drug possession be sent to recovery programs instead of jail. My stance may seem biased, but allow me to tell you exactly why they should. First, I'd like to reference the article titled, "How Many People Does the U.S. Imprison for Drug Use and Who Are They?" published in 2005 by Jonathan Calkins, as he mentions the difference between violent and non-violent drug offenders. A violent drug offender is a person in possession of drugs with intent to distribute, whereas a non-violent offender is someone in possession for personal use. You see, the first presents harm in the form of addiction or potential overdose to a number of people in society, whereas the latter only poses a danger to themselves. This is a crucial distinction as it indicates whether their crime warrants jail time or a recovery program. With reported drug use on the rise, California sought to implement this process to combat the criminal logistics of distribution while simultaneously treating victims of drug addiction. This policy is Proposition 36 and was first passed in November of 2000 per Catherine Jett's article Substance Abuse Research Consortium, released in 2007. She goes on to assert that this Proposition 36 was designed to preserve jail and prison cells for serious and violent offenders, enhance public safety by reducing drug-related crimes, and improve public health by reducing drug abuse through proven effective strategies. In addition to sobriety, eligible offenders are motivated to successfully complete recovery programs, as such completion allows participants the opportunity to petition the sentencing court for dismissal of charges. Given that this is the first policy of its kind, the evaluation of its effectiveness is indicative of the future of these programs. After the trial period, examining the progress of over 120,000 addicts, the evaluation presented findings pertaining to cost offset, implementation, and areas for improvement. This policy and affiliated programs were deemed successful after findings reported that half of the participants were entering treatment for the first time, and that these individuals, upon program completion, are less likely to reoffend and more likely to remain drug-free and employed, thus reducing drug use and consequently drug distribution in the community. Regarding the cost of offset, participation in this program resulted in substantially reduced incarceration costs for many offenders. You see, by sending individuals convicted of possession to recovery programs rather than jail, we can instead allocate funds to taxpayers to benefit individuals with this disease rather than funding mass incarceration that will only result in repeat offenses and overwhelming numbers in jail. This isn't the only study to produce these results. In May of 2001, Bernadette Pellissier published her own findings in the article Federal Prison Residential Drug Treatment. Her study evaluated the effectiveness of prison drug programs, and these recovery programs were offered to inmates convicted of nonviolent drug possession in 20 different jails, all of which were unit-based. This means inmate participants were separated from the general population as a means to create a treatment community. In this way, the program mimicked a residential treatment center with the goal of achieving successful results. It was determined that inmates that completed this treatment were a staggering 73% less likely to be rearrested. This is consistent with the findings posted in Part 3 of the article Treatment of Drug Abuse and Addiction. In addition to the effectiveness of these inmate treatment programs, this author reported the effectiveness of coercion and drug treatment. You see, the term coercion is reserved to describe situations in which individuals have a lack of control over the decision to enter treatment. It's often argued that treatment is less effective when it's involuntary. However, others believe that the justice system can be used as a sort of involuntary outreach program, and thus a way to help people who would otherwise never acknowledge their need. It's in this way advocates of coerced treatment say that given the magnitude of the situation, even modest success would make the effort worthwhile. To clarify, the benefit of sentencing an individual convicted of drug possession to a recovery program rather than jail is not only successful in several studies, but beneficial to states, individuals overcoming drug addiction, and their families. By reviewing and amending policies to follow the example of Proposition 36 in California, we can expect a dramatic decrease in drug use and distribution across our nation, an increase in savings, and more jail cells reserved for violent offenders as they were intended for. Without help, my father's addiction resulted in years of jail time, probations, and loss of family. With the help of recovery programs and years of therapy, I graduated at the top of my class. I'm the first in my family to attend college and look forward to a promising future in medicine. And I'm never looking back. Thank you.